Hello, ponies. That's kind of all I have to say right now. Ha! I'm tired. So, the general consensus on the poll I posted yesterday, 2 days ago, I don't know, all the days are blending together. It's summertime! Yeah, it's too hot to even think right now. But that's what I get for being in Arizona. Ha! Anyway, so, please go vote on that poll if you haven't, because I want to post a video about a very weird movie that I watched recently, but it has nothing to do with ponies whatsoever. And the thing is, I used to have an old channel. Don't go looking for it. I'm not going to tell you what it was, where I got like super off the topic of the channel and it flopped. I got 38 subscribers. And then I posted a random meme the other day after like 6 months of inactivity and got another one. Yay! But that's not the point. The point is, I really want to post like a good review of the movie because I think it gets a lot of bad reputations, but I want to hear what you guys want to think. The general consensus seems to be, yeah, I'll watch it if I get around to it, so I'm not expecting it to be super popular, but it's also a movie I really want to talk about. I mean, let's just say I know from experience what getting off topic on a channel, can do, and it can either be good or bad, because, this channel was originally going to be a fan fiction reading challenge, not challenge, a fan fiction reading channel, and that's kind of, I still do that, I love doing that still, which is kind of why I make these videos still, but, I got in the whole thing with Bankwo, and I started making other videos, and now I just kind of talk about ponies. And that's good. I can't believe I didn't start the video like this. We just hit 150 subscribers, and I am so thankful for you guys. So please keep sharing, because we still gotta beat out Bankwo. I will not stop until we beat Bankwo. I don't even know how much he's up to right now, and I don't want to check. So yeah, but needless to say, I know what getting off topic can do to a channel. It can be either good or bad. So I wanted to see what you guys have to think about this. So, because if you guys don't want to, I'm going to try not to get off topic. So let's talk about Magic the Gathering. Specifically, that was the worst segue I've ever done. It was kind of funny in my head, but it's very contradictory to everything I was just saying. But specifically, we're going to be talking about My Little Planeswalker. I know I saved this thing. It's been a while since we've made one of these videos, so it just left my continue reading. So, once again, I guess thank you to Zenistrad for letting me read these, and there will be another custom card at the end for any of you other nerds who play Magic the Gathering. And if you do, play me on Arena. For Celestia's sake, please play me on Arena. I want to beat up some of you people. That was a joke. Wait, no, I need to restart this video. Editor, can we cut? Just kidding, I don't have an editor. That's just crazy. Like, I have the money to hire an editor. I'm a college student. I have no money. I could barely afford a Nintendo Switch. Let's do this. Alright, so, fun story. This chapter I pre-recorded, and I didn't like the way the recording sounds, so now I'm recording it again. So, it's only 2.1k words, so. It's shorter than the last chapter, so. Chapter 3, Welcome to the Storm Herd. The landscape whizzed by Twilight at a lightning pace as she continued her flight path, frantically pushing herself as far away from the hideous circus as she could muster. Everything passed by her in a motion-induced blur, reducing the scenery to indistinct masses of stone and marble, though even at a moment's glance, it all seemed completely alien. When fatigue finally began to creep its way into her body, her flight path slowed itself accordingly until she came to a full stop. Her wings beat at a leisurely pace as she hovered in place, feeling the warm air rapidly pushing in and out of her lungs as she caught her breath. With the immediate threat of danger left behind, Twilight took the time to finally observe her surroundings. What she saw almost immediately made her jaw drop. To say that it was the largest city she had ever seen would be the greatest understatement to ever cross her lips. There were great marble spires, complex networks of streets and intersections, immense aqueducts, brass smokestacks, illustrious gardens, and decaying slums. No matter how diverse the architecture, none of it showed any signs of shrinking away from the vast urban sprawl. In all directions, all the way to the horizon and beyond, there was nothing but more of the same city. Meanwhile, in the corner of her eye, a massive horizon-spanning cloud was quickly moving in her direction. An instinctual tingling in her spine pulled her attention away from the city and towards the foreign object. That the cloud moved on its own without foreign intervention was not particularly surprising, given the clouds in the parallel human world acted in much the same way. Yet there was something else that she found distinctly unsettling about it. The way that it quickly rolled across the sky seemed almost organic, like the way a living creature would move. Twilight squinted as the cloud came even closer and could barely make out hundreds of individual units within it, each blending together to form a singular mass. She instantly felt her heart drop into the pit of her stomach in a moment of sudden clarity. The cloud that was rapidly approaching her wasn't a cloud at all. It was a herd. More specifically, a herd of Pegasi. Even more specifically, a herd of Pegasi large enough to blot out the entire sky. Without even a second thought, Twilight dove towards the ground, heading straight for the cover of one of the alleys underneath. As she was sandwiched between two immense stonework buildings, she instinctively backed against one of the walls and hid her face behind her wings, desperately hoping that they would somehow provide her some cover. Everything eventually began to grow dark, and with the thunderous sounds of thousands of wings beating at once, the herd enveloped the sky. Despite her initial fear, Twilight couldn't help but peek out from beneath her feathers to observe its passing. Though they moved by too quickly to get a close look at them, it was immediately clear that these Pegasi were different from the ones in Equestria. They were much larger and leaner, and their heads appeared far more elongated than any pony native to Twilight's home plane. At a glance, they reminded her much more of the horses that were found in the human world, more primitive and animalistic, lacking the intelligence to form an organized society. She suppressed a shudder at the thought. The idea of creatures so similar to herself being treated as common animals had never failed to disturb her. Seconds ticked by, and the cacophony of wings and whinnies finally began to slow the straggling members of the herd passing overhead. I, skipped the entire line. Twilight exhaled sharply, letting the tension out of her body, and stood herself upright. She took a step forward and froze in place as her hoof embedded itself in something soft, warm, and foul-smelling. The word she shouted was normally considered an expletive, but this time it was also an accurate description of what she had just stepped in. Oh, wow, that's funny. Alright, gonna finish this chapter now. Whew. The last Ral saw of it, the unidentified creature had moved in a straight direction towards the southeast. It was far too fast for him to possibly hope to catch up to it, much less on foot, but he could make an educated guess towards where it would end up. Extrapolating from its flight path, it would soon end up flying directly into the 10th district, where the Liev commanded a powerful presence. Ral's fingers twitched anxiously, a reflexive static charge building in them. Azorius law mages were the absolute last people he would want to deal with in a situation like this. Even in the best case scenario, they could not possibly do anything other than get in the way. Thankfully, Ral also had a contact in the area that was much more capable of providing information. He was a grubby sort and not particularly bright, but if there was anyone who would have heard talk of a bright purple equine in the skies, it would be him. With renewed determination, Ral briskly made his way through the busy streets towards the southeast. Gross, 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 gross! No matter how vigorously Twilight scraped her hoof against the ground, nothing could seem to shake off the crawling sensation just underneath her skin, and that was to say nothing of the smell. Desperate to clean away the filth, she lifted her soil hoof and turned it towards her face. A small beam of searing energy shot forth from her horn and blasted away the last remnants of the feces, instantly sterilizing whatever pathogens had come into contact with her. The maneuver was met with a sharp cry of pain from Twilight, her hoof torched with so much heat that it began to glow bright red. She frantically waved her foreleg in front of her in an attempt to cool it off, eyes still watering from the blistering magic. When the pain finally subsided, she set her hoof down, grimacing at the stinging sensation that ran up her leg as she placed her weight onto it. With a few tentative steps, the pain was reduced to a dull ache, and she was able to carry on as normal. Stepping out towards the edge of the alleyway, she peered around the corner, careful not to go far out, careful, I just start stuttering, I can't stop. Careful to not to go far out as to draw attention to herself. The street was as wide as some of the largest streets in Manhattan, though in place of the smoother material was a pavement made of rectangular quarried stone. All around her were a patchwork of large buildings made of stone, marble, and concrete, and the thoroughfare itself was impressively crowded. Most of those who made their way down the street were humans, though they were also joined by a multitude of others who didn't quite seem to be human themselves. Some of them were short and hook-nosed with greenish skin, others were unusually tall and hairless with bright blue skin, and still others were indistinguishable from humans save for their pointed ears and almost unnaturally graceful movements. Beyond that, there were many more varieties of people she could see, and among them strange beasts of burden pushed their way through, carrying carts full of goods that she could only begin to speculate on. The only consistent thing about the members of the crowd was that they looked nothing like she'd seen on Equestria. "I can't go out like this," Twilight mumbled. Everything she'd seen had shown that this world was uncaring at best and actively hostile at worst. She couldn't afford to draw any attention to herself. Stepping back into the safety of the alleyway, Twilight's horn ignited as she prepared a spell. Transforming herself into a true human would take spellcraft far more complex than she could manage without the magic mirror. But with the right amount of illusory magic, she could make others perceive herself as one. As the spell completed, she could feel her own perception shifting to accommodate the illusion, seeing her hooves transform into purple-hued hands. The knowledge that her body had not truly changed at all had left a minor headache lingering just beneath her skull, though it was a compromise she was more than willing to make. Okay, now comes the hard part, Twilight said to no one in particular. She stood up onto her hind legs and she stood up onto her hind legs. Come on. Her quadrupedal body protesting with an uncomfortable knot in her spine, and her illusory body followed suit by standing upright along with her. The sensation caused her headache to intensify, and as her actual body was still a good deal shorter than her illusory body, even when standing upright. The spell altered her perception so she saw solely from her false body's eyes, yet her real body still knew that her true eyes were much lower. The result was a series of conflicting sensations that caused her head to swim. Using as much willpower as she could muster to did I just say sus? Oh my gosh, I'm done today. That's alright, it's still better than the first recording. That's sad. Using as much willpower as she could muster to suppress the disorientation, Twilight tentatively flexed the fingers on her illusory body, ignoring the complete lack of sensation in them. She then pressed her false hands against the familiar skirt and blouse that had materialized around her new body, observing how it pressed against the fabric. Theoretically, the illusion would be solid enough to manipulate objects, though even the slightest disruption of the spell would cause it to dissipate instantly. She would have to exercise extreme caution to maintain her disguise. Even more worryingly, however, was that her skin retained the bright purple hue that it had in the world beyond the magic mirror. The humans of this world were not so colorful. The closest she saw were the blue-skinned beings that she was certain were not actually human at all. Closing her eyes, Twilight reached into her inner magic and adjusted the spell, visualizing an appropriate color. When she opened her eyes, her illusory skin had turned into a light sandy brown. "I'm pretty sure that's the average human skin tone I've seen here," said Twilight. "I just hope this works." Moving carefully to avoid losing her balance, she stepped out and into the streets. Almost immediately, the sounds of the bustling crowd started intensifying her headache. The masses of people moving through the traffic bumped into and jostled her, causing sharp spikes of pain that stood out even in the midst of the steady pounding sensation underneath her horn. Twilight shook her head vigorously, pushing herself through the pain. She walked among the crowd, her entire body filling with resolve. She needed to find answers about this plane, about its culture, about everything. And in any civilization, there was always one place where that information would be kept. Twilight turned to face a human in an elaborate white tunic passing by. "Excuse me, do you know where I can find a library?" The man stopped to give Twilight an odd look, one that was equal parts bewilderment and surprise. After a moment, he shrugged and continued walking. Disappointed but far from discouraged, Twilight began turning her attention towards the other passers-by. Much to her chagrin, they proved to be equally unhelpful, most of them ignoring her outright, and the few that didn't doing nothing but giving her ever more perplexed stares. Come to think of it, quite a lot of people in the street were staring. It had taken a while to notice, but just by walking past she managed to attract more than her fair share of prying eyes. A small bubble of panic welled up within her stomach, only to quickly dissipate when she looked down and realized her illusion was still holding. There must be something else drawing everyone's attention to her. But what was it? But what it was, she couldn't say. Regardless, asking random people on the street had proven to be unproductive, and she realized that she would have to turn her focus elsewhere. Twilight glanced around at the buildings nearby, many storied works of architecture used for a variety of purposes. Most of them were labeled, but they were all written in a language that Twilight couldn't understand. There was one sign, however, that she could immediately recognize. It was a wooden sign hung with metal chains on a post just above the first-story entrance of an old stone building. Painted on its surface was a large glass mug filled with a frothy, amber-colored beverage. Through the cracked glass windows, she could see a massively long countertop with dozens of stools and a large number of diverse patrons in various states of consciousness. Though it was far from the ideal place to ask for directions, it was the only building in sight she knew what to expect from. "I guess I'm heading to a tavern now," Twilight muttered. Wow, I have not read in a while, if just looking at my upload schedule hasn't shown that enough. See, my problem is I'm good at dialogue. I'm not good at descriptive stuff. I mean, during that whole argument with the Weather Sisters, back when we were reading The Ghost of Chicken Scootaloo, I stuttered once, and it was an entire chapter of arguing. So, but anyway, the custom card I have built for this one. Well, I didn't build it. I just designed it. I swear I can talk. The author, Zenistrad, wrote the cards. It's called Anthropomorph, and Anthropomorph. I can't even say one word! And it's one mana, and then a white and a blue. I think that's what it's supposed to be. I couldn't tell, honestly. I didn't know if it was, like, one, and then a white and a blue, or one white and one blue. I don't even remember how I designed this card. I designed all these cards like 2 months ago when I was getting ready to start this series. Enchantment, flash, enchant creature. You know, you'll understand a lot of these words if you play Magic the Gathering. Seriously, though, if you haven't started playing Magic the Gathering, you should pick it up. It's really cool. It's just stupid expensive. Don't even get me started on collector's boosters, because just one of those will set you back $40, but you do get a chance to pull a $2 million card. The One of One rings. And once again, if you know Magic, you'll understand that. Whatever. Okay, I guess moving to the end card type spot. Wait, I can't move to the end card quite yet. I'm guessing I'm just going to start making an end card when I go on a rant about random things. Maybe I've just been watching too much Odd Ones Out, and that's how he does it, but it makes sense. But I got to show you guys something first. So I'm going to switch into my normal, you know, real world, not animated pony character stuff and show you guys something on my bed cloth today, because I was too lazy to set anything up whatsoever. So I made a video. My last video was on just random stuff I picked up off Amazon. The card game, by the way, is super fun, and I love it, and I've played too much of it, and I already have the other expansions shipping in. But I'm not going to talk about all the other stuff I bought. If you want to see that stuff, go watch that video. It got like 50 views. But I did say at the end of that video that a new friend was coming on Thursday, and it's Thursday. Do you guys want to see the friend? This is the first time I am ever showing a plushie on camera. Wait, look at the hooves. See if you recognize it. You might not, because the lighting is weird in my room, but it's Fluttershy, and she's beautiful. Isn't she cute? This is so well made. The only thing is it's not as good for hugging, because it's like firm plush. I didn't have this commissioned. I just had it bought off Amazon. I mean, if you guys want the listing, like, DM me or something, or if enough people... If you want the listing, put it in the comments. I'll reply to you and give it to you. If you do want to DM me, I'll put that in the comments, too. Just send me a message on Discord. I really don't care. People have done it. I have responded to people on Discord, and we've talked for a little bit. So, this is just going to add to my growing plushie collection. I'm showing this one because I said I would, but I usually don't show my plushies because they're mine, and I'm not sharing. But, yeah. Now we'll move to the end card.